Houston, we see you on the stereo.
Conspiracy, lies, truth, helping you understand the lies of the world and see the truth of the Bible. Welcome to Celebrate Truth with your hosts, Robbie Davidson and Pastor Nate.
Hey, it's Celebrate Truth Radio, where we expose the world's lies and celebrate the truth every Saturday on Revolution Radio. I'm your host, Robbie Davidson. Joined with me, my awesome co-host, Pastor Nate Wolfe. How's it going, Pastor Nate?
Hey, Robbie, it's going well. How about yourself?
Oh, man, things are good, busy, and I hear that you're busy as well.
Oh, yeah. Gearing up for Take on the World 19 and putting the finishing touches on my book after receiving the first proof. Have a couple of quick edits, and hopefully everything will come out in time for the conference.
Well, speaking of Take on the World, it just so happens that we have the conference organizers, Chris and Liz Bailey, on with us tonight to discuss everything about Take on the World. We're going to be going through all the speakers. We're going to go through the sessions, things that they have planned, maybe some secrets, some special announcements. So I'm really excited, and it's my pleasure to welcome Chris and Liz Bailey from Take on the World Conferences.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having us on. It's truly a privilege to be here tonight with you both.
It's great having both of you on. You must be getting really excited. I just actually looked at the website, and it's less than 20 days away. Not to freak you out or anything.
Yes, nervous. It's all of it.
Yeah. Well, like this is number 3 for you, right? So, yeah, maybe you can kind of explain a little bit. I know that we did a show a few months back with Chris, and we didn't have you on, Liz, but maybe you can kind of explain a little bit just your heart and just how it kind of came together starting the first Take on the World conference.
Sure. It's definitely been something that's been laid on our hearts for a number of years, and I believe Chris shared sort of the long, short story of how it all came to be, but truly it's all him. We could not put this on without the amazing support of the community and everybody else. It's a humbling experience to be able to bring all of these speakers together. Chris is the dreamer in this operation, and I help facilitate it all. So we make a good team. So yes, this is our 3rd year, and it just keeps getting better and better.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, I know with the conferences that I do that my wife is a huge part of, behind the scenes, and just how much work it takes to do these conferences. I don't think a lot of people really understand exactly how much work and time goes into these conferences. And it's absolutely so rewarding. I mean, it was my first year last year, and what an incredible time. Thank you so much for inviting me out, and I had a blast. And I know that Pastor Nate, well, I mean, that's where the whole story for Pastor Nate Wolfe starts, is Take on the World. So it's definitely very sentimental, but also very, very historic when it comes to Pastor Nate's story. Maybe Pastor Nate wants to share a little bit about his experience.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think 2018 and 2019 are going to just be almost the complete opposite. When we came in 2018, in fact, it was, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris and Liz, but it was around this time, the very beginning of August, end of July at the earliest, when we even found out about the conference and started some email dialogues with Chris, and then got our tickets ordered, meal plan and all of that. And, we came to the conference, Jennifer and I, and we didn't know a single person there. We knew of the Baileys, but we truly had no connections to anyone. And, we were blown away just by the amazing conference, everything, the speakers, the setting, the spiritual atmosphere, just the knowledge, and meeting all these people in person like yourself, whom, we had listened to for months and months online. And of course, then I get fired 3 weeks after the conference for simply, pulling on the grass and parking my car and spending a couple days on my vacation with my lovely wife. And this year, it's completely different. We know almost all of the speakers. We know many, many people who will be in attendance. We even have some of our own friends and family coming. And I'll be speaking on each of the 3 stages, as well as doing a beach chat and probably a handful of panel discussions. So it's a dream come true. And I think I shared this before, but it is the honest truth. The night that we left Take on the World, we left right before or right as the last panel discussion Sunday night was beginning. I kid you not, we were sitting in the car. My wife and I were talking about, okay, what does all this mean? We just know there's a huge significance to us being here. And my wife said, with the straight face, she said, "You will be speaking at Take on the World 19." And I just looked at her like, "Are you crazy? Like, nobody knows me. What would I speak about? Why would they want me?" You know? So she doesn't claim to be a prophetess, but she nailed it on that evening.
That's pretty amazing, right? So, you may have to check her. She may have all these unhidden spiritual gifts you don't know about. So,
she's gifted, that's for sure.
Yeah,
she just had that feeling, that's for sure, and she definitely nailed that one by saying that. But what a great time it was. I want to make sure that we have a lot of time. We've got a whole 2-hour show to really go in depth. With all the speakers, anything that you do want to share here at the beginning, Chris or Liz, feel free. But before we get started in there, for anyone that's not familiar with Take on the World conferences, maybe you can kind of explain where they can find more information just here at the offset. Maybe they can look it up while we're doing the show.
Yeah, this is our plea to you guys. If you're listening to this, you're unsure about the conference, if you've already known about it, or whether this be your first time hearing about it. Right around this time, as Pastor Nate talked about, was last year. Right around this time was when he even just discovered the conference, and it was life-changing for him. Now he has a whole new mission in regards of ministry, and this was instrumental in him coming. So whether you already know about a lot of the topics, whether you're brand new to them, this is our plea. Come join us. Mm-hmm. This isn't a conference. This is a true retreat. This could be your family vacation, where you bring your kids. They can be involved in programs.
Some even call it like the most epic adult summer camp out there.
Yeah, that's a great way of explaining it. Yeah, that's a great way of explaining it.
The food is much better than summer camp, though.
Right. Yes, and you get Tempur-Pedic mattresses, much better than sleeping bags.
So there are some fantastic conferences. One coming up. Sorry about that, guys. I'm still dealing with that dry cough. Yikes. So, I'm going to let Liz fill in. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Poor guy.
It happens.
I tell you, we planning this conference has never been easy on us. As Robbie, you know what it's like.
Absolutely.
And it seems that each year, as the conference grows, so does the spiritual battles and the spiritual attacks. And so, it's definitely ramping up. We know that we're on a mission here, and we are shining light in the darkness, and this darkness doesn't want it. So we feel that, and we definitely have those attacks happening all the time. But needless to say, for anybody interested in coming to the most epic weekend ever, go to takeontheworld19.com, and you'll be able to see all of the speakers, and we have the schedule on there as well. So it is a 4-day retreat, but if you are more local to us in Ohio, the setting is right on Lake Erie in Vermilion, Ohio. You can come for just a day or come for the whole time if your schedule allows for that. We are kicking it off with a fantastic concert and full day of activities, adventurous activities, and then we start into the conference presentation starting Friday morning and going all the way until Sunday evening. So that's August 22nd through the 25th, and it's just going to be an amazing time.
Yeah, no, it's going to be absolutely epic. It's an incredible time. Maybe you can kind of explain a little bit about just some of the sessions, maybe some of the topics for people that are just joining us, that are listening in. What type of topics will you be covering at Take on the World 2019?
Sure. The range is vast in what is covered. Basically, during the day, we have 3 stages running simultaneously. So there's always a stage dedicated to cosmos. So that is everything biblical cosmology related. And then we also have the main stage, which we have various topics being covered on the main stage. So some of those are going to be spiritual warfare and deliverance, satanic ritual abuse. There's also, we have a faith stage that's running at the same time. And on the faith stage will be biblical health, talking about marriage. And we have a new documentary coming out, being released, covenant warfare, during the conference. We are also going into homeschooling aspects and just having a biblical home. We have a women's panel that's going to go into more women's topics. And gosh, there's so many here. We also have 2 individuals that are going to be speaking on, one particular who lived a life of a homosexual for 25 years and had AIDS and has been completely delivered from that lifestyle. So he's going to be sharing his testimony. We also have another woman along those same lines in speaking of gender confusion and sort of how to navigate that. We also have somebody who's on the front lines of going to abortion clinics and trying to help those women in need. And she's going to be speaking about her testimony with that and how we as believers can rally around the pro-life community. So she is from Created Equal. So there's a lot. There's even more that I'm sure I'm forgetting. But we really bring truth. We bring the truth of Scripture together on all different areas.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. With so many vast amount of topics, there's something for everyone. That's absolutely for sure.
Absolutely, yes.
The one thing that I was thinking, and there's so many different realms to the conference. We're not afraid to talk about things that are in the Bible. Call me crazy, but that just seems a little odd, right? That we would even have to say that. But how many, if you look at all the denominations within the body of believers that claim the Bible and claim that, Jesus, Yeshua is the Messiah, if you've been to specific churches, let's just take cosmology, for example. If they're very staunch, heliocentric, you're only going to hear Isaiah 40:22 ever taught in regards of the earth. Yet there are hundreds of passages that they won't ever touch. And then us as biblical cosmologists, we do cover those. But I'm here to tell you guys, whatever topic you're either afraid of or scared of, or you're not, that you don't know much about, I'm going to tell you that that is the same approach that for every one of these topics. So whether it's, we talked about Torah last time, right? You have all these verses that are against it, but you won't hear people give you the pro verses, right? So, it's the same aspect in regards of all of these things. And we could go through that list of all the topics and their contradictory part. Let's say Nephilim, right? If you talk about the Nephilim, you're going to talk about specific verses. If you're an angelic take, or if you're a Sethite view, you're only going to.
There's really only two. There's really only two when it comes to that topic.
Right. Yeah. And so you're only going to hear people really attack it from their perspective. Where at a conference like ours, we're not gonna be afraid to look at all of these scriptures and open these things up. And you know what? The Bible tells us a couple things. It allows us to come to reason together, as it clearly states, and iron to sharpen iron. So if there's people who think that we're wrong in specific areas or topics or this, and then you think it's ridiculous that about that the Bible teaches flat earth, come reason together with us. Let iron sharpen iron. Let's look at these passages together, learn why we believe what we believe, and that's what we do at Take on the World. So we're not afraid of any of these topics, because if we claim that the word is true from Genesis to Revelations, we can't be so afraid of it. And yes, we understand that there is contradictory aspects within each body. So we're not united. We're not ecumenical. We don't believe that everybody's right. Mm-hmm. We believe that's a dangerous teaching, but we do believe that there is room for us to have debate, have discussion in regards of all of these specific topics. So, don't come with a preconceived notion that if you don't believe on something, if you're coming to our conference and you're very much interested in learning more about spiritual warfare or biblical prophecy, you could come to the conference and hear all about that. You don't have to go to a biblical cosmology teaching, right? Correct. If you want to come and learn about, what we call at the conference biblical obedience, right? Learning, what it means to obey, his calling and what that looks like. And, you could come learn those things, so it's really up to you what you want to get involved in. But I encourage everybody to get out of your comfort zone and at least understand, both sides of the discussion. And, we don't bite. This isn't a group of individuals or teachers that says if you don't believe this way, you're cast off or you're going to hell or whatever that a lot of people may think we're doing. Yeah, it's the exact opposite. So, that's my plea. Come on out. Yeah. Yeah,
you definitely don't bite, but you do bike. I Take on the World. I see you on your bike a lot, so yes. you do a lot, and I mean, just covering all that ground and being at all the stages, and it's quite something to watch you. You know what I mean? Because you're dealing with a lot of area there. It's not like a normal conference where you're all kind of contained in one building. You're kind of like all over the place, right? So I always get a kick out of that. Maybe you can explain, on each of the topics. Like, for example, you were talking about biblical prophecy, in biblical feast days and cosmology, spiritual warfare, biblical home. Maybe you can kind of explain just a short synopsis of each of those, or maybe even where that debate is for people and kind of what they will learn if they're not familiar with what these topics mean.
Yeah, I mean, Liz, you want to pull up...
like even biblical health. I mean, there's a lot that you do talk about, at this conference, but I think it'd be good just to kind of break down each one of those, show people, the kind of both of those sides, kind of what will be discussed, or just helping people understand what's contained in each side, one of those categories. Some people, you'd be surprised, they don't even know what biblical prophecy means, right?
Right. Yeah. I'll start with the biblical health, right? So we have a speaker. His name is Dr. Alphonso Monzo. And Liz just did a show with him, and he's going to be speaking about some really fascinating things in regards of healing the body naturally. Liz, you want to share a little bit about that real quick?
Sure. You can find that show on Take on the World TV on YouTube, but he is a fascinating individual. His backstory actually started in electrical engineering, and he went from electrical engineering to seminary to then finally naturopathic medicine. So his journey was pretty vast and long, but it was for a purpose, in that he was able to understand the body on a level that most don't even see at all. So much of us that maybe in the health realm have heard of the chakras and the meridian lines and acupuncture and all of that. And you typically always think of that as New Age, and as believers, we are going to stay away from all of that. And, that's definitely definitely true.
Yeah, we do. We are not promoting.
No,
that,
we are not. But what is fascinating with what he has discovered is that all of that is sort of surface level when it comes to the energy systems of the body. And he explains it beautifully in how our body is basically like a computer, and we have a specific software system. And that software system can actually be found in Scripture, and it is the way that the body can heal itself by activating this system. And it's what he has sort of coined the Alphonso body system. And it has 26 points that he has mapped himself. There is a 27th, although that is inactive. And those 26 points all correlate to the Hebrew letters. So it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So he's going to be speaking 2 different times, and also has a beach chat going into sort of more of an application process. And even,
and it all applies to, especially we see in the New Testament where it says, what are you to do when somebody is sick? Well, you take them to your elders and they place hands on you and they pray. And it's all centered around that. So really fascinating for you guys to learn a little bit about that. And so, that's one aspect of biblical health. We're going to be talking specifically more on the traditional realm of, what we consume, why we consume what we should consume, from that standpoint.
We're
and that's
still
what
getting our ideas together.
Yeah, so we're still,
because that's pretty much your start. I mean, your heart really started with the whole biblical health. Did it not, before even taking the role?
Absolutely. Yeah. We did health conferences in various states for a number of years, and felt, there's so much more here, in completing this whole puzzle, of just reaching people on so many different levels. So yeah, that's sort of what sparked us into all of this. Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you guys are familiar with our shows, we are the longest lasting non-studio Now You See TV show. So now that Now You See TV only does in-house shows, whether it be from one of the 3 hosts, we are the longest lasting non-studio show, and we did that for over 2 years there. So all of our work is still over there on Now You See TV. So we do talk a lot of things about plant-based living, the difference between, what is a good diet, what is a better diet, and what is the best diet. We talk about that from a biblical standpoint, and one of our passions biblically is eating based upon the spiritual nature of the instructions of our Father. And that is a passion of ours, not by the letter alone, but by the spirit and what it truly means. And that's one that, we're still trying to walk in and still grow, but that is definitely a passion of ours, and we'll be speaking on that definitely at the conferences as we do that. So biblical health, everybody could use that. That's a very small part of the conference. Biblical prophecy.
Because that one, obviously there's a range of different views, eschatologies. So I'm just kind of curious, what will be covered, or what type of controversial issues within biblical prophecy, will be brought up.
So we're gonna start with an aspect of prophecy. Let's face it, the whole Bible is prophetic, whether prophecy's fulfilled or prophecy's yet to be fulfilled.
I believe a third of the Bible is prophetic. I think that's what they say, which is an enormous amount if you consider how much is in the Bible. That entire third is all prophetic.
Right, and then almost everything is dealing with that 1/3, right? So, one thing that I'm really passionate about is one of the talks is going to be from Doug Krieger, and Doug Krieger speaks on probably one of the greatest prophecies, which is something sort of not even viewed that way, because typically we only think of rapture, we only think of this, we only think of that. Now they're all intertwined and connected, But he speaks on specifically something, and he has a very fascinating background. He was in the pre-trib rapture camp for over 30 years. He got to speak at White House Christian organizations and do their big prayer meeting for many, many years. So he ran with the guys like Hal Lindsey. He's friends with all those guys, Tim LaHaye and Jerry Jenkins and all the guys that wrote Left Behind and, Great Late Planet Earth, all of those books that formed our modern, pre-trib rapture idea with, all those movies and books, right? And so he was part of those, all the conferences, and he did ended up leaving that camp and goes more to a post-trib view. But the thing that got him to really leave is his, because I think this is important, which is the Commonwealth Theology is what they like to call it. And that is the understanding of the two houses of Israel, the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes, and what it means for when they reunite. So he's going to spend some time talking about that, who we are as believers, what we graft into as we start to lose some of our dispensational mindsets by leaving the pre-trib rapture and the things that are just relatively new.
Maybe explain what pre-trib rapture is for people that are listening that aren't really sure what that terminology is. Maybe just explain that. Yeah.
So you got 3 primary rapture terms, and the rapture is where Christ is coming back, the second coming of Christ.
And he's going to rapture out his church.
Yeah, and he's
out of the tribulation.
Yeah, and he's gonna rapture out his church, and he's gonna usher in new heavens and new earth, millennial reign, all of these things. And so you got the pre-trib rapture, which is the predominant view of the pre-trib rapture, is that the Lord returns before the 7-year, right before the 7-year tribulation. So the great tribulation that's prophesied, the common thought is that it's a 7-year period. There's lots of thoughts, because we have thousands of different, eschatology views, but the standard view, which is known as the pre-trib rapture, is that it is a 7-year tribulation period, and the Lord returns at any moment. Like he can return in 1, 2, 3, 4. He came back right now. He can do that. Yep. In the pre-trib rapture, he doesn't need things to be fulfilled. He can just show up anytime, and that is the pre-trib rapture. All the Christians go, their clothes drop to the ground, and their bodies disappear, as we see in all the movies. So that's the standard pre-trib rapture.
Yeah, we escape it all.
The mid-trib rapture is that he comes before it all gets really bad, because they break up the rapture into 3.5 years of peace and 3.5 years of turmoil. And so before that, he returns in the middle, and that Christians don't have to face this wrath. A post-trib view is where the Lord returns at the very, very end, and his believers are protected throughout. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't all, that some won't pass, because it talks about those that you will die, and have their heads, cut off because they would not serve the Antichrist. Mm-hmm. So that's a pre-trib view, is that the Lord returns at the end.
Post-trib.
And that would be a post-trib, so that would be a post-trib type of view. Then you have pre-wrath, and you've got a lot of different other layers within there.
Oh, but yeah, there's tons.
There's tons. You've got the
So wait, which ones are you? I'm just curious, because myself, I'm like pre-wrath, but I'm just curious what you and Liz are currently.
Yeah, I would say that we're raptureless, meaning that the Lord returns at the very end.
Okay.
But raptureless in regards to that, we believe that there is a more of a ceremonial meeting in the sky, and that's when our bodies will be changed, and then he prepares and creates a new heaven and new earth. So, so I mean, we're all pretty much
Pastor Nate, I'm just curious, not to put you on the spot. I'm just kind of curious, because the one nice thing about these topics, most of the ones that you're dealing with here at Take on the World, is they're not, dividable. I mean, we can actually have, a healthy debate. We can talk about these without dividing. I think that's what's really important. But I was just curious, Pastor Nate, where are you at with the whole, with your eschatology, or the whole, the rapture?
Sure. Well, mine has changed a little bit over this last year. Of course, I've been so heavily involved in the subject of biblical cosmology, and then studying about the commandments and the feast. I really haven't done a wholesale study on that like I should, and will do in the near future. But, I used to not believe in any type of rapture, at least as far as how a lot of the modern religions put it. But I would say I'm probably more of a post, at the end sort of a deal. Gotcha. I think that there will be some difficulty even for believers, because the scriptures are repeating how it's, the one who endures to the end, the one who is faithful unto death, is the one who receives the crown of life. And so I think that there will be, some tribulation. Now, this has always been the challenging thing for me. And of course, I don't want to take up the rest of the first hour talking about this, but I will say that in the beginning of Revelation, it's interesting that John, who received the revelation, says that he was a partaker in tribulation. So I think there already has been, throughout the years, much tribulation, and certainly no one would argue against the fact that the first and second century, specifically around certain rulers of Rome, was not a major tribulation for many believers. So I think there's been different times of tribulation, but more and more I do believe that there will be a future type of tribulation that we'll need to endure by faith.
Absolutely.
One thing that I want to say on that regards is why the Commonwealth Theology is so important to understanding eschatology. Because it definitely will change, who we are as believers and what that means in regards of obedience and a lot of other aspects. But here's the common thought and the common teaching of the pre-trib rapture model. And this is what I have always understood, and this is what you can just go and easily find, is that God the Father has his bride, and that's Israel. And in common mindset, it's just the Jews. Because yet, when you don't understand certain things, you just think Israel equals Jews. Okay, Israel, Jews, got it, cool. Jesus has his own bride, which is the ecclesia, the church. That is us, the Gentile church. That is the common perception of the pre-trib rapture. Now, here's the problem with that, is that God and Christ, Jesus, are one. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Yet, they can't have two brides.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not bringing in, this is not a marriage where you're bringing in multiple partners, right? He's got one bride.
Amen.
And that's it. And so in this pre-trib dispensation model, when you start to have multiple brides, because and this is where you start to compartmentalize all the scripture, is that everything works within these dispensations. And this was for the Jews, this was not for that. So when you start to understand Commonwealth theology a little bit more, and Doug Krieger is a perfect person to understand this. He's written a book called Commonwealth Theology. You can go to his website; it's fantastic. Doug Hamp and a few other guys there with them, and you start to learn, specific easy things, right? You're going to start to understand, that there's 12 tribes of Israel, and 2 of them stayed, and 10 of them were cut off, and those that stayed were the tribes of Judah. You guessed it, the Judites, where we get Jews, and Benjamin, which all are part of that. So that, and then that would be the house of Israel that was cut off, and those are the 10 tribes, right? So I'm fascinated, I'm excited for you guys to learn more about that and how that can, further shape your discussions, your research, your biblical study into this. Allow iron to sharpen iron. So that's going to be one great aspect of biblical prophecy. Another one is Chad Schafer's book, where you're going to get a lot of that same stuff, because Chad also was he's also a part of Commonwealth Theology, along with Doug Krieger and Doug Hamp. And in his book, you're going to get all about the triumphal arches of Titus, and really putting this full picture together in regards of some prophetic things that are going to be mind-blowing to you. So I'm excited for you guys to learn that. And then we're going to do a biblical prophecy Q&A. So no matter where you're at on these topics, you can come and ask some questions, and we're going to have guys like Doug Krieger, Chad Schafer. I'm working on getting Rob Skiba part of that Q&A. Nice. And we're also going to be getting John Pounders and John Hall of Now You See TV. They're going to be part of that Q&A process as well. So that's going to be a really fun, topic for you guys to, just come learn get a little bit more about.
Yeah, Chris, last year we did catch Doug Hamp's talk on Commonwealth Theology. And of course, at that time, I was completely new to the idea. And so it was kind of just that he made some very interesting points, but I it was kind of a fast and furious, discussion. And so I'm looking forward to this year, listening to Doug Krieger from his perspective, and with all his decades of teaching and speaking experience. I think it'll be, well worth the listen.
Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating. When I was with Rob Skiba there last week, we got talking a lot about eschatology, because, as you know, Chris, that he definitely suffered and went through kind of his cost of standing his ground when it came to going against pre-trib eschatology. But it was, he'd be definitely a great person to have on any panel when it came to biblical prophecy and eschatology. I wanted to move on just because we are kind of squeezed here for time in the first hour. What do you mean by biblical home? Maybe you can go into that a little bit more as one of the topics that will be presented at Take on the World 2019.
You're muted, Chris.
Yeah, sorry about that. One of the aspects of biblical home is going to be biblical marriage. And the first night, we're going to be showing the film called Covenant Warfare. This is the start of the home. If we can't, have great marriages, godly marriages, it's impossible to have godly parenting, because you're going to be fighting back and forth, right? And if you're not in one accord with your husband or your wife, it's going to put a spiritual strain on your relationship with the Father as well. And so he's trying to restore that. And yeah, there are so many people that are coming that are just single because their spouses aren't aboard. You're a flat earther. Are you kidding me? You're going to this conference? You know how many stories we get of that weekly? Mm-hmm. So many people are coming. I wish my husband was on board on this. More husbands fight this than wives. Yes. Yeah. And we see this all the time. And yet husbands are called to love their wives even as Christ loved the church. Now, then you're going to get most Baptist churches that are going to say things like, wives need to be submissive. But if you look at these passages and you look at what is being taught in the original language, husbands love your wife, or wives love your, be submissive to your husband, or submit to your husband. It's conditional. It's conditional based upon one thing. It's conditional based upon husbands love your wife even as Christ loved the church. Amen. they're the head of the home. And if they aren't doing that, it's not this blank submission, to a guy who may be verbally abusive, physically abusive, mentally, spiritually abusive. And that's the tough part. And we understand people are in all sorts of situations, whether it's anxiety, work areas, this area, that area. So this documentary is at the heart of restoring marriages, restoring relationships with the kids, restoring your walk with the Father. And the film is called Covenant Warfare because it really is a spiritual warfare battle. Mm-hmm. It's how Satan is going to destroy the household.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Marriages are absolutely under attack. A household, the entire, created order that God created is massively under attack. You see it in the media. You see it in Hollywood. I mean, it's flipped upside down is what you definitely see. And especially when it comes to men, how important it is to be, true husbands and fathers, because what you see in the media are just complete idiots. They portray husbands and fathers as just completely, they'd be lost. They have no merit whatsoever as far as doing any type of leadership, even in a servanthood capacity. So, no, I think it's incredibly important that you're bringing that up because, like I said, it's massively under attack, and rightfully so, because if you take out the family structure, you can definitely take down a society.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it like this, is that in this community of body of believers, it's more so-called biblical homes that are facing this than homes that are not biblical. And yeah, we know what non-biblical homes have. They got a million of problems because they don't even have them at all. But inside of these biblical homes, because we've got men who are claim to be, ministers or in their church, deacons, elders, whatever it may be. And we know what that can do, like in the regards of Pastor Nate Wolfe. But what happens when some of these topics come up within the home and these men are so unwilling to budge on passed down theology that they can't even reason, listen, talk to with their wives, right? They can't even do that when the wife is saying, I'm reading this in scripture and I'm being convicted of it. No, what do? They put down the wife. They make fun of, they belittle. That's why we have people coming from all around the country, around the world, because their Christian husbands won't travel with them because they think that they've gone off the deep end. And it's time for us as men to, if we can't stand when we disagree with our wife on something theologically, when the scripture is tugging her in a way, and we can't sit down and do a Bible study with her, love her, try to understand why she believes why she believes that. No, it's immediate fight. It's immediately I'm closing my ears. Why does that happen? Because it's a spiritual battle.
Yes.
And so it's time for men to love their wives even as Christ loved the church unconditionally, because they're called to agape or unconditionally love their wives. Unconditional. It is there's no condition. It is unconditional love. And then by the byproduct of that unconditional love, which means, hey, honey, you believe this? Let me understand why. You think the earth is flat? You think the Bible teaches that? You're a fool. No, honey, I love you. Please show me why. I want to understand what you believe. Right? So if we can just start from that perspective as husbands, and that's not what the film's all about, but those are the underlining layers why you'll see there's so many single people coming with their children because they're all in the same boat together.
Yep.
And so, coming back to, addressing the biblical home, what a biblical home looks like, where it starts from the top, then it addresses the family, and what we guard, what our family watches, listens to, in regards to multiple things. Me and you, Robbie, we agree about a lot of things in regards of, music. Me and you will say, I don't know how, Christians should, how they can get away with listening to secular music, right? When we know what we infect into our ears. But what are we teaching our children?
Yes.
Are we imparting, saying, here's the things you need to put into your ears, right? And so, that's a little bit about biblical home and family. So
I think touching on that as well, just because the family is so important, and maybe stressing all the advantages of Take on the World being a family conference retreat. That's one thing that we haven't really discussed yet. Is just this is the whole family is welcome to this conference. It's great for the whole family, children included. Maybe Liz can touch on some things that are planned, what activities and different sessions that are going to happen for children at Take on the World.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the things that we were so passionate about, because we always wanted to go to different conferences, but we had our son, we have to find a babysitter, and that's an extended period of time. And so that really pressed on us that why can't we make this event for the whole entire family so everybody can enjoy it, be together as one. And that's how it has been from the start. Now, we've learned a lot coming from 2017 to now 2019, and it just keeps getting better and better for the kids program. So we do have a totally separate, so we have the 3 stages running during the day for the adults, but we have stages for the young kids, and we have a teenager stage and program. So really you can look at it like 5 stages running simultaneously. Wow. So that's why Chris is on his bike going all around the whole campus, making sure everything's in check.
How come you don't have a bike, Liz? How come you don't have a bike? I think you need 2 bikes. So
this year I probably will be on a bike.
Nice.
Rather than behind the desk the whole time, coordinating it all. So the young kids, we don't have a daycare. That's the hardest part for really little ones. So the kids program starts at ages 4 and up. And we section off the 4 through 10-year-olds, and that's the young kids, and they get focused lessons directly to them, a lesson every single day. That's more animated, really, really fun, really engaging for the younger crowd. And then we've got some amazing games and activities. The Take on the World Conference is set on a Christian camp. It's a Beulah Beach Camp and Retreat Center. So we have access to all of the activities that they run throughout the year for their camps. So we have zip lining. There's a huge giant swing that you get hoisted up and swung across the shoreline of Lake Erie for all those daredevils.
Ooh.
And we are bringing in a petting zoo, of course, bounce houses. We just have a ton of really, really fun activities for the young kids planned. One of our speakers that is coming in, he is a professional artist by the name of Michael Mize, phenomenal individual. His background is not only professional art, but also a teacher. And so what he is going to do is take both of the programs and do an art project with them, and also a devotion at the same time. So I'm super excited to add that on this year. He has YouTube channel, Creation Club, and he does a phenomenal job of bringing all the evidence together for creation. And so he's going to speak more about that with the teen program in talking about the evidences of the flood, and have their artwork portray more of the creation aspect of it. So the teens are just going to have, lessons directly for them. George Moss, one of the music artists, who really has sort of formed our whole entire conference with us, his song, Take on the World, and logo as well. So he facilitates the teen lessons, and he's an incredible individual with the teens. Yes. That's what he does pretty much all summer long, is go from Christian camp to Christian camp, doing
festival.
Oh, festivals too. He does both.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a big shout out to him.
He's the busiest guy.
He's going to be rocking. It's called Unity Fest in Michigan, That's his next festival, and he's going to be on the. He's got the 4 or 5 o'clock main stage slot, and so later that night, he's going to be playing with like bands like Jordan Feliz, Skillet, some of the biggest names in Christian music.
Wow!
And here's our guy George Moss rocking this, and he's got his own stage. He's got his own Oxen stage where he's going to be running that for 3 straight days as well.
Cool.
And he just got done doing a really huge event this past weekend, and he's got a bunch. He did a bunch all this summer.
Is he releasing his new album this year, or is it now pushed into 2020?
He's jumping into the studio into September. So slammed this
2020.
year.
Yeah, I figured.
So he'll be putting that out 2020. I mean, he's got a lot of stuff written, so he's just got to get in there, get it recorded, and he'll be pumping out some new tunes. So.
Yeah,
Sweet.
He's just the coolest. Some of the past teens that have come throughout the years, they have literally told us that was the most impactful part of Take on the World was George's lessons and what he talked about and how he reached them at that point in their life. And that's just super incredible to hear. So we are excited to have George run that.
And those were from families who brought their kids, and their kids were ready just to like sort of give up on their faith, or just they weren't really serious about their faith. And they get right into that program, and it changed their lives. And now they are interested in the Word of God, interested in their relationship with the Creator of the universe, and it was amazing. And
his father, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the kids have an absolute blast. They really create friendships and bonds with all the other kids there. You know, these are families who maybe don't have a lot of community around them in their day-to-day lives. And so for the kids to come together and meet other kids who, you know, believe the same way they do, and you know, just be able to experience all of this together, it's lifelong friendships that they create, and it truly impacts their life from here on out. So,
very nice.
Yeah, it's an incredible program for the kids and for the parents, you know, to be a part of and see their kids really flourish.
And how's that schedule coming together? You're the one that's handling that, Liz, as far as getting those 2 tracks together?
Well, we're tag teaming it together, and we hope to have it early this coming week. So we're getting close.
Wow!
Nice. Yeah. And I'll have 2 of my kids that are teenagers out at Take on the World, and so I know they'll be wanting to hang with mom and dad a bit, but they'll also be there for some of the teen events. So it's very exciting.
It's going to be amazing. I'm excited. We're at the top of the hour. You're listening to Celebrate Truth Radio. We're on with Chris and Liz Bailey from Take on the World Conferences. Go to takeontheworld19.com to learn more. You don't want to miss one of the greatest events coming up in less than 20 days. We'll be right back after these messages.
Opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hey, welcome back to Celebrate Truth Radio. This is Hour 2. We're on with Chris and Liz Bailey from Take on the World Conferences. The first hour, we went over a lot that's going to be covered at Take on the World. I thought for Hour 2, because you have so many speakers and such a diverse amount of topics, if you could, maybe you could go through each speaker, just summarize really quickly who they are and what they're going to be talking about at Take on the World. I'm not sure if you have the website up or whatever, but it's a long list to memorize. Okay.
Got them all in my head.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
How do you sleep at night then?
Yeah, right. I don't sleep. I'm a machine. I'll start off with, well, of course, we got Rob Skiba coming. And Rob's got, let me pull this up, because if you guys didn't see this.
His topics.
Yeah, Rob's got some great topics this year. And
I saw him post that just on Facebook, what he's going to be talking about. So that's really cool.
Yeah, he's going to be speaking on testing the globe, taking a disturbing trip down the rabbit hole. Theologians gone wild, why creationists should stay out of the flat earth debate. And then the Genesis Revelation, theological junk food, or the roadmap for understanding end times.
I hope we can fit those titles in our event guide.
Yeah, so he's going to be talking a little bit of prophecy this year, so it's going to be really cool.
Just put awesome stuff in there.
Awesome stuff. 1, 2, and 3.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Part 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. I've got a guy coming. He may get offended, but he's coming from Canada, and that is, of course, Robbie Davidson. Yeah. Robbie, I'm going to tell you guys, Robbie is coming. He's going to be.
Am I the only Canadian?
You're the only Canadian speaker, yeah.
Wow. But we have a huge Canadian audience coming.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. So Robbie's going to be doing a main stage presentation on Saturday night, and he's going to be part of so many other different Q&A panels, beach chats.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be busy, but he's only got one presentation on the main stage.
Yeah, so don't miss it.
Don't miss that. We've got Tom Dunn. Tom Dunn speaks on spiritual warfare, and he's going to be talking about lots of crazy, heavy stuff. And so, yeah, we love Tom and Jared. If you guys know Through the Black, they're going to be well represented at Take on the World 19. His daughter is Evangeline Dunn, and she's going to be talking about her being proactive in regards of pro-life. And so, it's going to deal right with those same things. We also have somebody new who's a part of, he's like a family to Through the Black, which is J. Brett Prince. And he's a former Mason, Luciferian, turned to the Savior just about a year ago.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Fantastic testimony there. We have David Arthur. He was the former homosexual transgender man for almost 30 years. Tom just did a documentary on him, and so he's going to be sharing his testimony. And we have Through the Black's own Jeremiah Dirt. And if you guys don't know Dirt, Dirt does hip-hop, and so he's going to be doing some live underground hip-hop. He's been part of the Christian hip-hop scene for like 25 years. He's a legend.
Yeah, since the early 90s.
Early 90s, man. He's been rocking it. He was just rocking a show at a show called Rock the Desert, big Christian festival, like Lecrae and Toby Mac and all those other big bands were there, and he was rocking a set out there. Nice. So Dirt he's going to be doing a Bible study, which is called Word Digging, and he's going to be doing some music. We've got Doug Krieger and Chad Schafer, as I mentioned earlier. We got John Pounders, Jake Grant, and John Hall from Now You See TV coming. John's going to be doing some main stage presentations, some beach chats, and
that's the last person. That's the last person from Now You See TV that I have yet to meet. Is John? So obviously I met John Pounders and Jake, but it'll be a great thing to finally meet John as well.
Yeah, and so Jake Grant, I just interviewed him last night, or Thursday night. Mm-hmm. And
into the wee hours of the morning.
I watched that. Your head basically disappeared. It was weird. It was really wild. That was a wild interview because during the interview, I think Chris's head disappeared a few times.
Oh yeah, and so Jake is going to be doing a live presentation with some of the guests for his new documentary. What if the Earth is flat? And so that's going to be fantastic. We got Nate Wolfe in the house. Is
that documentary coming out before Taking the World or after Taking the World?
Maybe right before, but most likely, yeah, right there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just did about an hour interview with Jake to help put some of the finishing touches on the documentary. Just last week, we did a Google Hangout, and he had several very pointed and good questions relating to the true biblical cosmology, most of them specifically from Scripture. So he grilled me pretty good on that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing, what makes it in as far as the content that we did together. So
yeah, and then we've got, like I said, Nate Wolfe. I don't know if you guys know him or not.
No, maybe you can explain who that is and what he's going to be talking about.
He's the guy who was fired for attending, fired for truth, and I always joke and say we've hired him for truth.
Yay, thank you.
So from fired to hired, that is Nate Wolfe. I've got another guy coming. This is his second year presenting, and that is my friend, your friend, Michael Solomon. And so if you guys don't know Michael Solomon, then obviously you've been living under a rock. He is from the most prestigious flat earth show on the internet.
Oh, absolutely.
100%, hands down.
Yeah,
millions of subscribers worldwide.
Hands down.
In spirit. Millions of subscribers in spirit, which is Flat Out Insights. So, hey, if you guys are listening, go type in, pull up Flat Out Insights on Take on the World TV, and make sure you go subscribe to the channel.
Yeah.
Michael Solomon's going to be there speaking on biblical creation. He's going to be there with Canon Quest. We got Zach Struharik, and he's from My House Ministries, and they're a home ministry, set out to just divulge into the truth of the Scriptures, and they talk about a lot of different topics, from understanding the biblical calendar, that what they're going to be talking about this year, to understanding Paul, because we love Paul, and they have some really great things. Last year they did a talk called Apologetics, and it was going through all the things misinterpreted through Paul and brought them to light. So part of that group is also going to be Greg Widener, Micah Kissling, Darren Bakander. So they come with a nice group. They're all going to be doing some individual things there. We got Allan Aguirre. Allan Aguirre, he is a punk rock legend, Christian punk rock legend. He was in a band called The Scattered Few, and Allan, has transitioned from punk rocker to an amazing biblical author. And so he's written a book on the biblical. Yeah, he's written a book on the biblical feast called The Feast Unlocked, and that was something that was actually revealed to him in the 1980s, believe it or not. And it took him a while to write that book. And then another book recently called This Thing is Spiritual, which underlines the spiritual nature of every aspect of a believer's walk, and gets them into the game of understanding this whole thing is spiritual. So excited for you guys to hear those talks.
Yeah, Chris, I got the book. Allan was kind enough to send me a copy over the winter, and I read the feast book, and I thought it was very good, and it was very helpful as I was trying to understand, the key components of the feast, the purposes of the feasts, and how that involves Christ, And I don't have his new book out yet, but I want to probably try to get that at the conference. So I'm excited to see that second book, because I'm sure it's going to be very good.
Yeah, and his main stage presentation is going to be on having people understand what the feasts are and how they're all about Jesus. And he's putting that connection back. He's going back to the Moedim of creation in Genesis and underlining and showing Jesus that here's the redemption, here's the plan of salvation through grace, through faith alone. And it's all going to be, that's what that whole talk's going to be on. So it's going to be a beautiful picture of some things maybe people haven't considered or even ever heard about. So that's going to be a great talk. We got Emily Pittsford.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We touched on Emily earlier. She's going to be talking about gender confusion. She has 2 different presentations on the faith stage with that, talking about how it came to be and the lies that are all with gender confusion.
And then what a story with her, even just with her daughter and everything. So yes. Very, very powerful stuff.
Yeah, and if you guys know, she was part of Questioning Everything, as well as
Truth Quest
out in Calgary. Mm-hmm. So she's very familiar. Then we've got Chad Taylor. I mean, what can we say about Chad? He's the greatest guy, and he's written a fantastic book. Earth According to the Bible. I'll tell you guys, we joked around before the conference, and he's trying to gauge how many books he should bring, and I go, dude, people need your book.
He needs to bring twice as many as he did last year.
He was like, well, I'm going to bring 30. And he thought like he would only move like 10 or 15, but have enough just in case. And then he was going to give out a few. I'm like, dude, that's not enough. You need to bring like 100 books. He's like, no. He ended up bringing like 70 books or something, 80 books. Sold completely out, and then had to put people on a wait list to get them.
It's a great resource. Absolutely great resource for sure.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. It was the first, really the first flat earth, biblical cosmology book, and I would call it a resource, more than just a book. And I was diving, right into it. I purchased it at the conference last year. Mm-hmm. And in those 3 weeks where I was fervently praying and studying and looking into his book, those 3 weeks between the conference and when I got fired, that was a tremendous resource. And Chad himself was a great support and resource. We spoke 2-3 times on the phone. And so that's a wonderful book. And then, of course, there's other books out there that you really should look into. Robbie's book, Scientism Exposed, as well. It's really, really, a fascinating read and has a lot of good information in it. So there's so many good biblical cosmology books out there, and Chad's is quite a unique resource. I got a spare copy, and so I give out the spare copy, and when they're done with it, they bring it back and I give it to somebody else, or I tell them, hey, you give it to somebody. So excited
it's crazy
to see
to think
Chad
that biblical.
out there.
It's crazy to think that biblical cosmology pretty much is like one of the most controversial topics within the church. It blows my mind. Like really, if you throw it out there, it really, really ruffles feathers. So,
sure.
And a lot of people that listen to the show are obviously aware of our stance on biblical cosmology. But it's great to talk about Chad's book and all the great speakers. But continue on, Chris. With I know there's a lot more on biblical cosmology and other topics as well.
Oh yeah, I mean that leads us to. Man, what can we say about this guy? Man, I think he almost speaks as much as Robbie. Now, he may speak as much as me when I do a show, because I really don't. I don't speak that much, but when I get on this show, for some reason, I don't shut up. I've been accused of having a certain type of style of talk recently. So, hey, I guess I take that as a compliment. So, if you're listening, thank you so much.
Here's the funny thing. So, Chris and I have been together for over 20 years. We were high school sweethearts, and anybody who knew Chris in high school would say he is the most shy, introverted guy you've ever met. He barely talks. I like to think I had a part in.
He's blossomed.
Yes, absolutely.
He's blossomed.
Well, the guy that I'm speaking about Do you guys have any guesses who I'm talking about first and foremost?
I'm
Dude,
trying to.
He's got stories for days, man. For years, man.
Is that your impression
No,
of him?
no.
Stories for days.
Story for days, yeah. And they don't stop.
I'm gonna
And
go.
they're all true too.
I have
It's
two.
crazy.
They're all true. Yeah, I've got one guess.
He's
I'm gonna
really
say-
close to all of us. I
I'm
can
gonna-
tell you that.
Yeah.
Well, it's either between Anthony Stover or Nathan Thompson.
No.
Oh, but those are great guesses.
I really.
I want to say
I'm sorry.
Mark Sargent, but I'm just throwing that out there because
I'm just trying to think who would talk as much as me.
Anthony has, I'm sure, tons of stories.
No.
That he does.
You know, I'm talking about a guy. You guys are really close to this guy.
I feel bad, man. I feel bad that I think you're playing
are.
around. I think you're playing
Yeah.
around. Oh my goodness! Of course, Rick Hummer. Of course.
Oh yeah.
Of course. Rick Hummer.
How
Rick
did you?
Hummer.
I mean,
I don't know.
Story.
I don't know. I was
threw
just.
up a softball to you guys. Come on.
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, if Rick's listening, yeah, totally didn't know. But yeah, Rick.
Rick
Rick
is not listening.
Rick's got one of the greatest hearts around, man. Like just a
Yeah.
heart of gold. Like I don't know Rick as more of a talker, as a guy that's just honestly solid on every level. But
He has so
maybe
many
that's what threw me off.
talents. Yeah, he has so many talents.
But Rick's not listening. And then if you
Oh,
ask him,
Rick will
"Did
be
you listen
listening."
to my show?" He go, "Oh man, I was moving. I did this thing, and then Tab did this. Oh man, and then this happened." So don't worry, he'll never hear this because 30,000 things will pop up in front of him that he won't get to the. But man, I'm excited because Rick he's got some great presentations for this year.
Awesome.
I spent some time talking to him early on, and he kind of had a ball game of what he was doing, and I'm sure all
Rick
that's
is just loved by everyone. Like anyone, doesn't matter who he meets, everyone just falls in love with Rick Hummer. I mean, he's just so gregarious, so outgoing, just an amazing guy for sure. But it's hard to put into words like Rick Hummer. But I mean, there's a reason why he's been kind of my core team at FEIC, as well as being MC on every single conference. I mean, we're going on the 4th annual one this year. But yeah, Rick, it wouldn't be the same without Rick Hummer.
Yeah, and
he brought puppets out last year. I mean, he brought puppets out. I mean, that is so cool. You know what I mean? In an
dude is so talented too.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, his
so
characters,
talented.
his voices. Oh my goodness.
He can dance. He can rap. He can sing. He can build anything. He's like MacGyver on
Throw a
steroids.
football like Brett Favre.
Have you guys
He's athletic.
met his brother?
I have not met him. I've heard about him.
Yeah, his brother may show up at the conference this year. We're super excited.
Very cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Isn't he from the South or something? I don't know. He's like kind of a hillbilly.
He's more he's definitely more hillbilly.
Nice.
I give you guys softballs, but you guys do not get them.
It's been
Well,
a
the way
long
you
week.
said it, though, it was just like.
No. I mean,
someone that
about
can
his
talk
brother. You
about
guys
as
are
much-
still not
oh,
getting it.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, I got it. I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you.
Because
his brother
may
even
make an
met,
appearance too, but I'm pretty sworn to secrecy about that.
Yeah,
So.
his brother even met Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I know,
Right?
I know,
Yes.
right,
Oh.
right.
Mhm.
Hey, you
Pretty
guys-
famous for
Dude, his
hill-
brother had a whole parade. Okay, had a whole parade in the devotion to him and him alone. So he's a pretty significant guy.
You guys
Rick's
are
so
starting
humble.
to get
Rick's so
sharp.
humble.
You guys are starting to get sharp.
Yeah,
I know it's late for Nate, so it's like 11:20 for Nate.
yeah, but it's like 4 a.m. in my mind because I've been pushing the envelope this week, but it's all good. I gotta practice. I gotta practice to stay up late with you guys how to take on the world. So
That's
Oh.
right. That's right.
Oh,
And
by the way, I got off the phone late last night, of course, with Anthony Stover, and it is official that we are doing a competition to see who can stay up the latest at Take on the
Oh,
World.
my
Just putting it out there, putting it out there for everyone,
not
all
me,
the speakers.
not me. Uh,
Well, Robbie, I know your whole family is coming, so your wife will keep you in check this year.
She is. I actually told her, I said, do not allow me to stay up more than 2 days in a row. So
Oh, my
she'll only
goodness.
allow 1 day in a row because I don't know a lot of people knew this. I mean, I didn't really go on the record, but I went 2 full straight days with no sleep at Take on the World.
Wow.
I guess I was just so excited and having such a
That's
great
what
time.
dude.
You know the rumors that came after that, right?
I'm not sure what the rumors were.
that you were a vampire.
I'll just tell you one thing. When I got home, I crashed for like 2 days straight. So yeah, I mean, I was out cold. I can stay up a long time and I can sleep a long time. Ask my wife.
Yeah, because keep in mind, at the conference, you never saw Robbie during the day. He was only in the buildings. And he never traveled back and forth.
Don't start those rumors. That's all I need now. Is I need new memes with vampire memes. I mean, that's the one thing that people haven't started yet. That would be actually pretty funny.
Because all those people posting those cards about all those Illuminati deck of cards, they got it wrong, man. It's vampire.
It's a vampire.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I definitely will. I will show that I will be out during the day this time, if to persuade anyone from any concerns they have.
I can tell you that at Question Everything, that Robbie kept me up. One night, he was gentle on me the first couple of nights. Me and Chad Taylor crashed out early because we were saving up for the big live stream night with Robbie Davidson. And one night we were up past 3 a.m. and I was like, wow.
I was proud.
Yeah.
They did a great job.
Paul on the plane checked out around 1:30 or 2. He's
what was that? Yeah, what was that?
Hey, I will say this: you guys just offered some really great sound bites for some clips there. So
great, that's great. Well, speaking of Paul on the plane, that's another person you can announce that is going to be first year at Take on the World.
Paul on the plane. He's going to be doing his Faking Space stuff. Nice. And this is the first time he's doing a live presentation on it. So,
awesome.
Yeah, he's got a couple talks, and he's going to do a couple part series on that. So
and he's bringing his family out, correct?
He's bringing his mom's coming.
He's coming out with his mom.
Oh, his mom's coming. Sweet. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Now we've got Nathan Thompson from the Official Globe and Discussion Group. Pretty much in every documentary out there.
Got to mention a quick story because I really got a good laugh today on Facebook. He posted a picture, and in the caption, he said, "The people called the police on me for handing out the flyer." And in the picture, he's got the police holding up the flyer.
Yeah, he's got a selfie with the...
He made friends with the police once they arrived.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He has a gift, that's for sure.
So he's going to be sharing about one of his topic is sharing is caring, and that doesn't mean you have to turn into an activist, but don't be afraid to bring up these topics. Whether it's biblical cosmology, whether it's any of these topics.
Did you ever share the story about about Tyler?
I'll do that at the end. Yeah,
okay.
I could do that at the end. Yeah,
because it fits.
Yeah, it fits, and I'll come back to that once we get through these speakers. So I'll
make sure that we get the Tyler story in before the end of the show.
Nice.
I'll make the rest pretty quick.
Oh no, it's okay. You got lots of time. We got more than a half hour left, so
yeah. Because I want to save some time for that because that's a good talk.
Sure.
We've got to stay on the topic of cosmology. We've got Darrell Lee coming.
Nice.
Man, DR is.
Talk about another lovable guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's just one of the most giving, jovial hearts out there, man. His laugh is infectious. You're gonna hear his laugh, in another building,
That's right. Yeah, you just want to be around him.
You just got to get this guy comfortable seats. That's it.
That's right.
That's all he needs.
Otherwise, he'll leave.
Yeah. He'll probably be the first one to bed at your fireside chats.
He might. Yeah. That was a trip because at the Go Therefore conference, one moment DR Lee was sitting right next to me, and then he just kind of laughed and looked at me and kind of motioned like, I'm going to go outside. I thought he was going out just to stretch his legs, and didn't see him for over an hour and a half, 2 hours. Text message him. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just chilling at home." I'm thinking at the hotel. No, he drove all the way back to Toledo. I was like, wow. But yeah, those chairs were hurting. But I can guarantee you the Take on the World chairs are much better.
Yeah. We've got, we mentioned earlier, we've got Dr. Alphonso Monzo. We spent some time on him. We've got Tony Stover, Ian Chadrick. They're doing that film Covenant Warfare. Ian is also going to be talking about some really, really heavy stuff. He's going to be on the cosmology stage, and he has a show on Take on the World TV. If you guys have not seen it, and he pulls together clips and pieces and puts together really good stuff for YouTube videos.
And someone I want to get to know more, because last year I didn't really have an opportunity to, talk a lot with him. So I'm looking forward to this year as well.
Yeah, he's a guy.
Ian's awesome. Yeah, Ian's awesome. The show is called The Reality Distortion Effect. So check that out. Tony's going to also be sharing about the binary.
They're into deep stuff, those two guys, eh? Like, there's some deep, deep stuff. Both of them.
Well, speaking of deep stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Nathan Reynolds.
I was just about to say, I was going to guess it. If you were going to throw that out and saying, what do you think? Who's the deep one? I'm like, Nathan Reynolds. I was about to say it. I thought you were going to give another trivia out test.
I'll tell you.
I didn't know this is turning into a trivia night.
Top security clearance deep.
He's putting us in the hot seat tonight with all this trivia, Nate. What's going on?
Yeah, right. And
Chris loves trivia.
We're so honored to have Nate come and speak again this year, and he's going to be speaking at FEI C19. He spoke at Calgary, Question Everything. Yeah. He is
everywhere, man.
He's just powerful.
Yeah, he's powerful.
He's closing my conference this year. I mean, when I saw him close Question Everything and Truth Quest Calgary, I was like, oh my goodness. And I've never really had a close.
Him at 2018 Take on the World.
No, I know I didn't. And then he was one person. We laugh about it now because we spent so much time together and we've talked so much that I never talked to him once at Take on the World 2018. Not once. Really? I mean, I heard about him, and not once. We didn't talk once.
Wow.
Yeah. We talked afterwards. About 3 weeks afterwards, we got on the phone and I called him up, and then we spent a lot of time since then. But I didn't talk to him once, and I kept hearing like his name the whole conference. It was like Nathan Reynolds. Oh my goodness, you got to hear a story. I was like, oh, and he'd be like, we'd be huddled around at campfires and stuff, but he'd be talking. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these people. I just never got an opportunity. But yeah, what a phenomenal guy.
Yeah, and we've got Ryan and Victoria Lucas. They're running a.
They've started their own homestead. So this is going back to that biblical home and family. They're going to be speaking of their journey of basically, selling pretty much almost everything and buying a cabin and moving it on a farm and starting off with, no electricity and learning how to farm and living off the land. Just basically exiting out of Babylon is sort of their term. So they're going to be enlightening us on their journey and how they got there. And
what that means, physically, spiritually, because, there is a calling, scripturally to do that, at least spiritually, right? And they're doing it physically, which is going to help their family stay away from lots of things, lots of temptations, lots of other things, and then still how to be a light to this world while being apart from this world, right? So a lot of really interesting things. So definitely go and see that presentation. And then we've got just a handful more. We've got the kids program, Gary and Faye Arbaugh.
Yeah, with Toratown.
Toratown. Faye Arbaugh is also going to be doing her show called Women Warrior of Faith, and it's a spiritual warfare podcast where you get to share your story and your testimony and all your hardships that you've overcome and how the Lord has brought you out of those. So she's going to be doing a whole session on the Women Warriors of Faith. And then we've got some musical acts. We've got George Moss rocking for the third time. Yeah, if I got to educate you guys on George Moss
for the third time.
Yes, having him for the third time.
No, I said rapping. I said rapping. You said rocking. Rapping. You said rocking, and I said rapping for the third time.
Yeah. Well, he'll be rocking and rapping, right?
Okay. Nice. Wow, he's gonna do some rock. That's gonna do.
Yeah, sweet. He's got the guitar ready to go.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but he'll be hitting the stage. He'll be speaking. He'll be running the teen ministries we talked about.
We keep him busy.
Yeah, he'll be busy.
Really do. Yeah. He was baptizing people last year, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Got a note, somebody who's not a stranger. We got Amber Plaster. She's going to be doing her music again. So
only this time not like 10 and a half months pregnant, right?
Right.
I don't know how she pulled that off, man. I was like, wow.
Oh yeah, it was tough on her last year.
This is her third year.
Very much looking forward to it this time, I'm sure.
Yeah, this is her third year, and if you guys haven't heard any of her music, just Google Amber Plaster, and you'll be happy you did. Let's put it that way. Yeah, she did that big track, that Adele cover song, "Hello." Mm-hmm. Flat Earth track, and heard by millions. Right, awesome stuff.
Geocentric. Oh man, good stuff.
And and then we got our worship leader. His name's Rob Blackwell, and he's awesome. If you guys did not get to see Rob Blackwell last year, do it this year. He was part of. Yeah, he was awesome.
He's got a guitar.
He's on the guitar. He'll be rocking.
Acoustic. Yeah.
He used to play in Building 429 before they blew up. Oh, so he's talented. He's not a pushover, but his heart isn't about how good he sounds. It's not about the kind, how good he plays the guitar. His heart is to invite you in to worship our Creator. That's it.
Amen.
And so that is his true heart. So if you guys are there, I'm gonna throw it out to you. Fellowship is awesome.
Yeah.
It's great. Mm-hmm. When worship is on the schedule, that should be packed out, because if we're fellowshipping with one another, this is our time to come together as a group and worship our Creator. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to throw it out there. We actually moved it to the main stage in the evening, one of the nights.
Yep, we have more worship this year.
And that way we can partake as a group, and not everybody, who's hanging out at breakfast in this discussion. So when speakers speak and artists perform, they're doing it for you. Mm-hmm. They're doing it for you. So if you guys are coming, be out talking at the tables at certain times if you're led to do that. But when you see it on the schedule, go to those things, support them, mm-hmm. support those speakers you may not know. Because this is how they get their breaks into people starting their ministries. And we kicked off, we were just honored that our conference, not me and Liz or anything, because we didn't do any of that, because everything is a divine appointment by him, and he used our platform that he graciously has given us, so it's really his platform, to kick off a lot of these ministries. Yes. And so a lot of these new people coming, or second year people, go support them. We all know who Rob Skiba is, Robbie Davidson. Boycott those ones. Just kidding. Go to those other ones that not very much about.
You won't be disappointed. Yeah, you won't be disappointed. I mean, there's not a single speaker that you could say,
Yeah, you'll make them. So we saved one of our amazing ones for last, and this is the last. I mean, me and Liz are speaking. We already mentioned that, but that is not it. Nate's the only one excited about that. until he actually has to hear.
I was going to mention you too if you forgot. So I was going to say, hey, you forgot two speakers.
We're fine until we actually open our mouth and people are like, "What? What did they just?"
Stop it!
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Because then everybody.
You're both great speakers. You're both great speakers. Very inspirational and very powerful.
Well, we have. Thank you, guys. But we have Thursday kickoff concert. Not only with George Moss, Rob Blackwell, they're going to be performing, but we've got Beckah Shae. Yeah. And if you guys don't know Beckah Shae is a national recording artist who travels the whole entire world. Mm-hmm. She's more popular outside of the United States than she is in the States. Mm-hmm. But here in the States, she's got to be on tracks with Toby Mac, Montel Jordan.
Great voice. Yeah, she's got an incredible voice.
T-Bone, if you guys remember T-Bone from back in the day.
Good old T-Bone. Yep.
I do my T-Bone expression.
There's trivia for you. What's T-Bone's name? There's trivia for you. Just throwing out some trivia back at you.
Wow.
Ooh. You just think about that one. I just had to throw that at you.
No.
Just gotta pull that one out of the
detour. The whole show takes a detour, right? It's like Chris stumped at his music trivia. He's going to be kicking himself over this one. But anyways, this is live for the whole world to see.
Yeah. It's on the tip of my tongue, I can tell you that.
Anyways, let's talk about Beckah Shae. But yeah, incredible voice.
Shae. Yeah, Beckah Shae, amazing voice. Amazing artist.
Talented husband. I mean, incredible producer.
Yes, absolutely. They have a phenomenal family. I mean, even their daughter, their oldest daughter, she has an amazing voice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the whole family.
Oh, yeah. Liz, are you familiar with the video that went incredibly viral with them singing in the car? I forget which song it was. Yeah, that was, it went into the millions of views. I know that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, I mean, we've loved her music for a long time.
Same here.
And, of course, Chris came up with the idea to kick off the conference, do a concert, do the whole shebang. And we had, all these different artists in mind. We reached out to a number of them, got a lot of doors closed on us. And we had one door that, remained open a crack for a number of months, and we're like, this is gonna happen, and then it got slammed on us.
Bummer.
And we're like, man,
and basically
Toby Mac's busy. He's just a busy guy. You don't blame him.
Yeah, so funny story. Right after that other artist that we had, he was a worship leader, and he couldn't make it. And so we had this other person in the back of our mind because there's this couple who teaches on that used to teach on Now UC TV. They're called the Riverwinds. They're a Native American couple.
Amazing couple.
Yeah, awesome. And they posted a picture with Beckah Shae. We're like, isn't that interesting? Then we start to look into Beckah Shae a little bit more, and she is a messianic believer who loves the Lord. And, speaks about some of the same things we talk about at the conference, like the feast days and how all they're about Jesus and all this stuff. And we're like, wow, she's a really good fit. She knows Hebrew and she studies Hebrew. And so it's a really, really cool story. And
but we're like, man, she's out of our
She's
league.
too big. She's way too big. And we're like, don't even think about it. And so this other person closed the door. And I went up. I was like, all right, well, I need to shave. I hadn't shaved in a couple of days or something. And I'm like, I need to shave. I look really ratty, like when I try to grow facial hair. So it's really bad. So,
Liz has told me.
Yeah. I think Liz may have said you need to shave. You need to clean up a little bit. But so I'm like, I went upstairs and, we got those apps on the phone. So I put on Spotify app. But before I did that, I prayed. I go, who do you want? If we booked the facility, we're trying to plan this concert. Who do you want there? And Beckah Shae was in our mind, but Beckah Shae was out of our mind too. So we were like, no. She's not gonna. She's gonna be too busy. She's gonna be too expensive. Forget about it.
She's gonna think we're crazy.
Yeah, and then if she hears that, we actually believe what the Bible says about the earth, right? It's gonna be off.
She's not going to associate with us.
So yeah, we had all these things. So she wasn't even in the radar to even contact. So I go upstairs and then I start shaving. I pray, turn on the Spotify app or the Pandora app, one of the two, and put on random, music. And the first artist that comes on is the song was Here in the Moment by Beckah Shae. And I'm like, whoa. It's like the name of it, Here in the Moment. It's Beckah Shae. Like, what? I'm like, whoa. And I just got done praying, please reveal to me who you want. So I yelled down to Liz. I said, hey, go to Beckah Shae's website. and send an inquiry about booking. Even though we're not going to hear back for like a few months and we need to know.
Yeah. We're like, oh, here we go again. We'll be waiting on months like we did for all the others.
Yeah. And so while I'm shaving, you know, if you have email on your phones, it gives you a notification. Like you get a little ding. And me, when I hear that ding, I'm like, oh, I got to check it out. Could be a work email. Could be this email. It's Jack Shockley, which is Beckah Shae's real name. Her husband's name, and he just messaged back, personal message, like, hey, I'm interested. We're very interested in your event. Let's connect. That was a matter of
like 5 minutes.
Less than 5 minutes.
Was that halfway through your shave? So you had like one side of your face was clean.
I was just about to say, what a powerful shave this is. This shave. This is like
I don't even think I had
epic shave.
I don't even think I've gotten like half of my neck shaved or something. So, and all that weird stuff that grows on the side of your
So what you're saying was getting Beckah Shae was a close shave.
It was
Sorry, had to do it.
Dad joke, right?
Yeah, that's a Chad Taylor.
Fire this guy. This guy needs to get fired. Again.
Fired. Yeah. Fired. Don't joke around about it.
But I'm bumped.
Yeah, you need drums now.
I'll be here all night, folks.
I'm the drummer.
And so then soon after that, we were talking to Jack.
We got to speed up this story because we need that final story.
Yes,
the grand finale.
So, boom, that's what happened.
Short, long story.
So that's how Beckah Shae got to the conference, and
really awesome.
That is not of my doing.
No,
I didn't even seek her out.
Still totally amazed.
I prayed. He told me where to go, and it happened.
There you go.
How crazy is that, right?
God's even sovereign over Spotify. It's amazing.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, where do we want to go? I mean, this is like a 45-minute story that I can condense into like 13 minutes.
Oh,
but
you can condense it. Yeah, you can condense it. I'll give you a heads up if all of a sudden. But yeah, we've definitely got about 12, 13 minutes. So let's. Right.
Now that
you pumped it all up. This is the grand finale. Everyone's waiting for this. So.
Right.
Right. So.
It's worth it. Trust me.
Here's the story. Okay.
And just in case we go right to break, it's takeontheworld19.com. That's the website, okay. Just in case you don't get a chance at the end of the show. Okay, go.
So I'm going to preface this. I need everybody listening to pray for these individuals, okay? Pray that they attend, okay? They're and I'll go through all this
quickly,
yeah. So it was a hot and summery day. No, I could tell this story pretty quick. So I went to the flea market, and one of my hobbies really quickly is buying and selling Christian CDs, collecting them myself, yada, yada, yada. And you go to a flea market, you know, other than a couple rare times, you find like a handful, like found 3. Oh, I found 5. It was a great week. Because you're just not trying to pick all the, you know, Amy Grant stuff that you know everybody's already got. So it's picking that rare stuff, 80s, early 90s, obscure labels, all that weird stuff, right? So it's hard to find. I get to this one guy's booth, and he's got CDs. Of course, you know, I check it out. And I'm like sitting here going, whoa, this guy's got every Christian like metal CD from the last like 5 years, like really like obscure, expensive, just like the whole box. We're talking like 80 CDs or something in here. I'm like,
Chris is in heaven.
And I'm going, I think I'm going to buy this whole thing. Like, right. And so, you know, I'm picking this stuff, and I'm just like, I look over and I'm going, so you listen to a lot of Christian music? And he goes, oh, yeah. So I met this guy who was running the booth. He was there with his friend or girlfriend. And I started getting this really heavy feeling. And I've gotten this feeling a lot. So before I get to that feeling, they're like, yeah, we used to listen to all this stuff, right? So they're throwing out all these words. And I immediately knew this person had walked away from the faith completely. Mm. And he was selling these CDs, and he's just ecstatic that somebody's interested in him, because everybody would have passed by this booth and go, I don't know what any of this crap is, right? They would just looked at this box and like, you got a bunch of no-name
weird stuff,
weird metal albums. I don't know who this is, right? And so I ended up picking it. I ended up getting like 63 or 65 of the CDs, but he didn't have one single CD in the case. So he's like, you're going to have to come by my house so I can take him from my CD booklet and put him in the cases. I'm like, okay. And he ended up selling to me for like $50, right? It was like a really, really good deal. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And, kept keeping a lot of them and all that stuff, right? And so I'm like, hey, can I ask you some questions? He said, sure. He said, I asked him, have you walked away from your faith? He said, yeah, I did. And he started giving me some reasons and some science stuff, and it had to deal with more of the things like David Arthur that we talked about earlier, the acceptance of certain lifestyle choices and certain things like that. And, and a bunch of things all over the place, of why and different contradictions in Scripture. And I said, and he goes, well, what do you do? And I said, what church do you go to? And I said, well, I'll tell you about the conference that I run. He goes, tell me a little bit about that. And I mentioned some of the topics, ritual abuse and prophecy and some of the really basic stuff. And I said, there is a topic that's really interesting. And he goes, what's that? And I said, it's biblical cosmology. And he's like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. And he comes back to the topic. He goes, can I ask you a question? What is biblical cosmology? Is this just you guys like talking about the sun, moon, and the stars? I said, you know what? I don't. And I said just like this. I said, I don't know you. And after I pick up the CDs, I don't know if I'll ever see you again. So I'm going to just be flat out honest with you. What that means is it means that the Bible is a flat earth book. And we wholeheartedly believe that based upon not only what the Word of God teaches, but also what empirical science tells us as well, what our own eyes can see.
Nice.
And he goes, whoa, that's really interesting. So we begin to talk for like the next, 40 minutes. And if you guys are listening, I could probably just ramble on and on and on, probably like what I did. And my son is dying next to me. So big shout out to my son. Obviously, the Spirit calmed him down enough to sit there for probably like 20, 30 minutes before he said, Dad, I'm going to look at this other booth over there. And I'm like, okay, Mom is now learning that. And so he would walk away. But it led to this discussion, this really good discussion. But he had no interest of returning to his faith. And he knew that's where it was at. So later that day, I'm like, you know what? Hey, Liz, I got to go pick up these CDs from this guy. And I'm like, you know what? I want to invite him to the conference. Because I never invited him to come to the conference because I knew I was going to see him later that day. And we get to his place, and he hands me the CDs, and he's super thankful that he could pawn these off to somebody that is gonna take care of them and enjoy them and whatnot. And I just said, hey, would you be interested in coming to my conference? And he goes, thank you for the offer, but I'm really not that interested right now. I said, hey, if you ever change your mind, I'll text you. So I got his number, and I said, hey, I'll text you maybe a little later, to see if you're interested, closer to August, and see if you're going to come out for a day and just check it out and, see what it's about. He goes, oh, thanks for the offer. And so a couple weeks go by, he's in the back of my head, but I didn't really consider that. And we were going through a really hard time at this point. Lots of issues, speaker issues, personal attacks on us. It's really draining. Financially, we're struggling. All these things are happening. And we're starting, we start to lose our why we do the conference. And we were driving home one night. It was late. Went over to my parents' house, driving home late. And, we're talking about, what are we going to do? We've had discussions, planning the conference. You have your highs and downs where you start talking about, do I pull the plug? Do we just not do this? How do we push forward past this? We're so depressed. That's the life of putting on a conference. So if you're interested in putting on a conference, be prepared.
Ready.
Be prepared. Tom Dunn told us a long time ago when we started 2017, be prepared for the biggest spiritual warfare of your life. Mm-hmm. If you're doing the right things, you're going to get hit so hard. So we're driving home, and I get a text. And I have him listed in my phone as Tyler CDs. And so this guy, hopefully he doesn't hear this, right? But he messaged in and says, hey, I'm interested in coming to your conference. Like, whoa. This came out of the left field. Here's a now turned atheist within the past 5 years was rock solid in his faith. Listened to some of the strongest Christian metal bands like Sleeping Giant and For Today, if you guys know those bands. Huge evangelical, huge understanding the spiritual nature of this world bands.
We got about 2 minutes, so I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing guys, and so he was big into that stuff. And so I knew where he came from his background, and he walked away from all of it. And we told that story to a couple people. They came out and said, I'm paying for their tickets. And they paid for up to, we've gotten 4 tickets for him and 3 other people to come.
Because he texted back again and said, hey, can I get more tickets? I've got some friends that are interested.
Wow. That's awesome.
And we can't hear you guys.
Oh, there it goes.
Can we hear you? Are you guys still there?
We're here.
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah,
got about 1 or 2 minutes here.
Yep. So that's where it went. And so that aspect of sharing is caring.
Yeah.
And that was the spark that we needed at that very moment.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you guys to pray. Because Satan is going to stop him from coming to this conference. And he's got his tickets. He's got it all set to come. Something's going to happen to get him to not come. So we need to pray a hedge of protection over these 4 tickets because these people, one of them is a believer, and they're pushing them all to come.
Awesome.
And so you know what? So that's why we do this. A lot of people can bash us, put us down for this topic, that topic. They're just playing right into the spiritual warfare that we're already facing. So we're here to strengthen the family, be an apologetic for the Word of God, and to lead people to Him that don't know Him.
Amen.
And strengthen the relationship that people may have already turned their back away from Him, whether they're still following Him or waxed their hearts cold completely, like this young guy.
Yeah,
so that's what you're going to get.
Bringing the prodigals home. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's what Take on the World's all about. It's about restoring, rejuvenating, and re-energizing the body. And so that's our plea. Come out, fellowship with us, not only to a conference, but a full-blown retreat. Come hang out and stay up late with Robbie Davidson because he's going to not sleep for at least 24 hours. So what's your excuse? You got no excuse. We got on-site lodging, on-site food.
Yeah.
No excuse.
Check out the tickets at takeontheworld19.com for Million, Ohio, August 22nd to 25th. Going to be amazing, life-changing, soul-changing, incredible time. Hopefully you guys will check it all out. And we will see you there. And let's keep praying for the people that are truly lost and need to have the truth. Set them free. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Don't miss Celebrate Truth with Robbie Davidson and Pastor Nate every Saturday, 7 to 9 Pacific, 10 to midnight Eastern on Revolution Radio. They talk the Bible and how it exposes a lot of lies in the world with special guests, roundtable discussions, and call-ins from you, the listeners. This is not your typical Christian radio show. Celebrate Truth with Robbie Davidson and Pastor Nate every Saturday from 7 till 9 p.m. Pacific, 10 midnight Eastern on Revolution Radio.